Welcome to the Explainer. All right, today we're building a pyramid, but, not with actual stones. We're going to construct a framework of ideas to really get our heads around AI governance. We're starting at the very bottom with the foundation of truth itself and building all the way up to the leaders who have to make the final call. So let's dig in. It really all comes back to this one deceptively simple question. When an AI system messes up, it denies someone a loan, it gets a medical diagnosis wrong, or it causes an accident. Who's on the hook? The programmer? The person using it? The company that rolled it out? This is the core challenge we're unpacking today. So, to even begin to answer that, we have to start at the absolute bottom of our pyramid. We have to start with the most fundamental question of all. How does an AI even know what's true? Because think about it, without some kind of solid concept of truth, accountability is basically impossible. For decades, in the world of engineering, we've kind of clung to this idea, the authoritative source of truth, or ASOT for short. It's this belief that for any question you ask, there's a single correct answer somewhere in a database that a computer can just go look up. It's neat, it's simple, it's clean. But, as you can probably guess, that tidy little model starts to completely fall apart when it smacks into the messy reality of the real world. And this is exactly where that old model just breaks down. You see, as systems engineer Alex Turkanoff points out, complex systems can't just throw up their hands and say, well, it depends. To keep the gears turning, that uncertainty has to get squashed. It gets suppressed. So what that means is that truth is often less about some objective fact we discover and more of a contract, a decision someone made just to keep things moving forward. So how do you govern that? Well, Turkhanov suggests a whole new way of looking at it. He calls the source of truth an epistemic control surface. Now, stay with me here. The goal isn't to find the one correct answer anymore. Instead, it's about defining the rules of the game. It asks, who gets to make a claim, under what conditions, and what are the consequences if they're wrong? In this world, truth just means that if you act on a claim, you're accountable for it. And that, right there, is the foundation of our entire pyramid. Okay, let's move up to the next layer of our pyramid and see how this all stacks up. Now that we have this foundational idea of accountable action, we can look at how actual nations are trying to build the rules of the road for AI. So, let's take the European Union. They have gone for a very structured, safety-first approach with their Big AI Act. It's a risk-based model that sorts everything into 4 buckets. At the very top, you have unacceptable risk AI, things like government social scoring, which are just banned outright. Then you have high-risk systems in really sensitive areas like healthcare or law enforcement. These face super strict rules. Below that, limited-risk AI, like your everyday chatbot, just needs to be transparent about what it is. And finally, minimal-risk stuff is mostly left alone. It's this really comprehensive legal framework, and it's all designed to protect citizens. But that's not the only game in town. In fact, if you look at the US AI Action Plan, it frames the entire issue completely differently, and it really shows this deep philosophical divide. While the EU is putting safety and individual rights first, the US plan is laser-focused on global dominance, on economic competition, and national security. The goal there is to clear away regulatory hurdles and very specifically to prevent what it calls woke AI by making sure systems are free from top-down ideological bias. So you've got 2 huge economic powers with 2 very, very different rulebooks. Okay, so with this complicated and frankly divided regulatory world, how does a company actually find its way through it all? Well, this brings us to the next level of our pyramid, corporate strategy. Every single organization out there has to decide what role AI is going to play in its future. McKinsey has a really handy framework for this. It's called the AI Posture Matrix, and it asks leaders to think along 2 key lines. First, where is AI going to create value for you? Is it by making your internal stuff run better, or is it by creating totally new products and services? And second, what's your adoption level? Are you just dipping your toes in, using AI in a few key spots? Or are you going all in, weaving it into the very fabric of your entire company? And where you land on that grid, well, that defines your posture. The most aggressive companies are the pioneers. For them, AI isn't just another tool, it's the engine of the whole business. Imagine a company that stops selling medical scanners and instead starts selling AI-powered diagnostic services. That's a pioneer. They are using AI to completely reinvent what they do and the market they do it in.
Then you've got the internal transformers. Here, the focus is totally inward. These companies are using AI to become the central nervous system of their whole operation. A mining company, for instance, might use AI for everything from finding new deposits to automating the digging, completely rewiring its old-school model into a hyper-efficient, data-driven one.
A much more focused approach is the functional reinventor. These companies are not trying to change everything all at once. Nope. Instead, they make very disciplined ROI-driven bets to improve specific, high-value parts of their business. A hospital might use AI just for scheduling, or a shipping company just for optimizing its delivery routes. It's targeted, it's practical. And finally, we have the pragmatic adopters. You can think of this as the fast follower strategy. They let everybody else take the risks and prove that something works. So a fashion brand might wait until AI stylists are a proven hit before they even think about building their own. It's a very cautious, very deliberate posture. So we've got our foundation of truth, we've got our national rulebooks, and we have our corporate strategy. But who? Who actually executes all this? Well, we finally reached the very peak of our pyramid. The people. The brand new leadership roles and ethical playbooks needed to manage AI responsibly. And look, this is not a job for one person. It takes a whole team, a dedicated crew with really clear roles. You need a chief AI officer setting the big picture strategy, a chief data and AI officer running the day-to-day operations, a head of responsible AI making sure the models are fair, a governance lead handling all the rules and compliance, and a committee at the board level to provide that ultimate oversight. It is a full stack of human accountability. So what guides this team? What's their playbook? Well, they need a shared set of principles, a core framework for what ethical AI leadership actually looks like. And these are the pillars. Accountability means you own it. You're responsible for what your systems do. Fairness means you're actively fighting bias to make sure things are equitable. Privacy means you're protecting people's data. Transparency means you're not hiding behind a black box. You can explain how your AI works. And finally, sustainability means you're thinking about the long-term impact on society and the planet. These aren't just buzzwords. They are the ground rules for any leader in the age of AI. So we've made the whole journey. We went from the philosophical nature of truth through global regulations and corporate boardrooms, all the way to the ethical principles that should be guiding our leaders. We've built our pyramid of control. And, at the end of the day, maybe the best way to think about AI is like a prism. It doesn't create anything new out of thin air. It just takes the light that we shine into it, our data, our values, our biases, our goals, and it refracts it, often amplifying it in really powerful and sometimes totally unexpected ways. The key thing to remember is that what comes out is always, always a reflection of what we put in. Which brings us to a much deeper question. See, we started by asking who's to blame when AI goes wrong. But maybe, after building this entire structure of governance, the real question isn't about blame, it's about trust. Under what conditions are we, as a society, actually justified in trusting these systems? What level of accountability, what level of transparency is truly enough to earn that trust? That is the question we are all going to have to answer together.